Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about dedicated instances and hosts. So we're going to start by looking at a shared type of tenancy. This is the most ordinary type of tenancy that we're used to. You launch your instances on a server, a physical server, and you pay dollars per hour, but also other people can launch their instances on the same physical hardware. So as remember from principles of virtualization, your instance thinks it owns the whole hardware, but it's actually virtualized hardware. The physical hardware underlying the server is shared, can be shared, and most likely is shared. So most likely there are other people launching their instances on that same hardware. Also, in this type of tenancy, you don't get visibility of the hardware. You don't know how many sockets there are, how many cores, and we'll see why that's important just now. In a dedicated instance type of tenancy, you again launch your instances, you'd pay dollars per hour, and in addition, you pay an extra $2 per hour per region where you want to have dedicated tenancy or dedicated instance type of tenancy. And what that guarantees is that nobody else will be able to launch their instances on that same hardware. So this hardware is dedicated to you. These are dedicated instances, or these instances are running on dedicated hardware where nobody else can share it. In this type of tenancy, again, you won't be able to see the sockets and cores on this hardware. The use case for this type of tenancy for dedicated instances is quite narrow, and it is compliance with regulations that require isolated infrastructure to be used. So even though even in the shared type of tenancy, they're not seeing each other, they can't access each other's data and so on. But in some industries, they go a step further and they absolutely require that nobody else can be running on this type of hardware. So maybe very specialized industries that might have these requirements, and you might need to meet them. So that's dedicated instances. Here's a quick text summary of that. Now, in terms of dedicated hosts, here we have a server. Again, you launch your instances. Nobody else can launch their instances. But here you pay for the whole server. You pay for the whole host. So effectively, you are renting the hardware. And then this comes with a few benefits. One of them is affinity between host and instance. And that means that if you stop and start an instance, then it will be guaranteed that it will restart on the same host. Another one is that there will be minimal latency between instances that you're running, because they're running, if you set them up to run on the same host, then they're physically very close to each other using the same hardware. So the latency between them will be very low. And another great benefit is that you will have visibility of the hardware. So you'll know how many you'll have visibility of the sockets and physical cores. And that is important for some kind of licensing requirements, where the license of the software requires you to pay for the number of sockets and cores. So here's a quick text summary. And if we look at the use case at the bottom, we've talked about strict licensing, sockets and cores, compliance with regulations that require isolated infrastructure to be used. That's like dedicated instance requirements, minimal latency, and affinity between host and instance. And if you'd like to explore further, there's a page here on Amazon about dedicated instance hosts, and there's a beautiful table here that summarizes what we spoke about. All right, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, enjoy the cloud.